And so armed with that type of knowledge that it's not because women chose not to know about money or understand about financial literacy, it's that our mothers didn't learn until far later in life. And I am absolutely passionate about passing that on.
Welcome to the I Own It podcast with Ben Reinberg.
All right, we are live from Laguna Beach, California at the Ben Reinberg I Own It studios today. And it just seems to be a consistent pattern. We have a tremendous amount of women that have been on the show and they keep coming and they're all outstanding. And today is no different. So this young lady is a best-selling author. She's a podcast host of one of my favorite two words, Efficiency Bitch. And we're going to get into it. And she's a co-founder of 2 Cents Consulting. Melissa Leon, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Welcome to the show, and let's kick things off, okay?
Awesome. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
All right, here we go. Can you share the story of what inspired you to pursue a career in finance and consulting?
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, it happened by accident, as all good things do. I went to hotel restaurant management school. That's what my bachelor's degree is in. And I thought I wanted to run a bar, work in a bar, own a bar, something like that. Turns out I just like to be in bars. Managing them and owning them are a very different thing. So I got into restaurants for about a year and a half outside of college, and it didn't suit me well at all. Fortunately for me, I was working at a hotel restaurant bar, and the financial controller recognized that I had some talent in the space, asked me if I wanted to try it. I said yes. And first day, Ben, fell in love, and it stuck with me. I've been doing it for 20 plus years now.
Oh, wow. Well, 2 Cents Consulting provides financial consulting services for everyone out there listening. What kind of strategies, Melissa, and financial planning services does your company offer to your clients?
Yeah, we specifically work with small businesses. Our mission is to help small business owners read and understand their financial statements. So we do not believe that you should be using your balance sheet and your profit and loss to file your taxes. You should be using those two tools plus cash flow statements and forecasting in order to run your business and make smart decisions. Something I say to all my clients is, I either want you to learn enough that you don't need me, or gain so much profit that you need more of me. You have so much business, you need more time.
Well, there's a lot of pros and cons to working with small businesses, and it's often lower revenue per client and offer a higher touch. But they also really value your expertise. How have you made it work for you in a scalable way?
Yeah, my business partner and she and I both came from Four Seasons Hotels. We both spent more than 15 years apiece there, and had the opportunity to work with them as a publicly traded company and then as a private when they went private. And you're right, it's a very different scale. There's a lot of nuances to small business owners, particularly in the education space of financial literacy. And the part that really has been fun for us is we're not only teaching them how to better manage their business financials. People and business, when you are the small business owner, they come together. So there's some personal benefit that they're able to go through. We do not give any specific tax advice or financial advice as far as investments go, but a lot of times it bleeds over the behaviors, and being able to help small businesses move through that. We consider ourselves fractional CFOs. So the beauty of that is that you can use me for an hour, and that company can use me for 10, and that company can use us for 30. There are 4 of us now who are running this. So it's been incredible to be able to see the growth of not only our company, but all the clients that we work with across the country.
So in your line of work, and especially what I do as the owner of a Alliance Consolidated Group of Companies, we own commercial properties throughout the United States. We're consistently assessing risk with our tenants, our lenders, insurance companies, you name it. Risk tolerance is something that is a big topic when it comes to what you do for work. And it's something that we're constantly assessing in what I do for the past 3 decades. How do you assess risk tolerance when helping clients with their investment decisions? And how important is risk management in long-term financial success?
Yeah, I think, I do not help business owners with investment strategies, but I'm always an ear for them with all of their financial planning decisions. So I always encourage people to have a tax planner, to have an investment strategist. And then we talk through what some of that language means, right? And you have to understand what risk tolerance is in order to be able to define it, in order to be able to decide what your own is. and walk through those seasons of life because they will shift. It's very different if you have no children versus if you have little children versus if you have college age or they've left the nest. Those types of risk tolerances, both for the person and for the business owner, really shift over time. So it's an ongoing conversation that is never a single moment. It has to continue to happen.
Melissa, at my company, we are big at empowering women. We have a lot of women on our leadership team. We have a lot of women in key roles. And your work congruently has a strong focus on helping women. What drives your passion for empowering and supporting women in their financial and professional lives?
Yeah, I mean, other than being one, I'd say I grew up with a mother who was one of the first female police officers in Tucson, Arizona. So I was raised by a woman who was a badass, right? She was going to break the ceiling every time. She also was in her late 20s before she could have a credit card. In 1974 was when it became legal for women to have their own credit in this country. And so armed with that type of knowledge that it's not because women chose not to know about money or understand about financial literacy. It's that our mothers didn't learn until far later in life. My grandmother never knew anything about money. My mother learned it. But I know far more today as a 42-year-old than she did as a 42-year-old for certain. And I am absolutely passionate about passing that on. I have 2 daughters of my own and 1 son, and we spend a lot of time talking about money to all 3 of them, and making sure. In fact, my 12-year-old just started a business last week with incredible profit margins. So it's definitely an ongoing conversation around here.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, as a mom to 3 children, how do you think about talking to your kids about money and success? Sounds like you are doing it. How do you think about educating them about sharing your success with them?
Yeah, I'm very open with my kids about money. I'm also very open with them about the fact that many people aren't open about money. They need to understand that they can't go to school and just start talking about money because the teacher might be uncomfortable. The other students might be, the other parents of the students might be, but that in this household, it's a safe topic and they can ask us any questions that they'd like. Now, my kids are 8, 10, and 12, so they're not learning big, complicated financial discussions yet, but we bought a house 3 years ago. We talked about all the language that goes on with buying a home and exposed them just to the conversations. I doubt that they remember it, but what they will eventually remember is that money was a topic of conversation. It wasn't anything to be embarrassed of, or it wasn't just for the grown-ups. We talk a lot about credit cards. My 12-year-old who just started a business, needed to borrow $350 from me in order to get it going. And I told her if she paid me back within 30 days, I wouldn't charge her interest, just like a credit card company would. And so we've been having that kind of conversation about what is interest? How do those things work? And hopefully that will just set them up to be able to have comfortable dialogue later in life.
It lights a fire under them too to perform, which is great experience. And so let's talk about your book, Inefficiency Bitch. You discuss the importance of financial efficiency.
Yeah.
Share some key principles or strategies that individuals or businesses can implement to improve their financial efficiency.
Yeah, I'd love to. I wrote Efficiency Bitch. The full story comes with an anecdote between my mother and I. It was actually a fight. I called her an efficiency bitch when I was 18.
No.
And so I tell that story a bit. And then I use the word bitch as an acronym in the book. So BITCH stands for bank, inbox, time, connection, and harmony. Bank being the lead chapter, ironically, because it starts with the B word starts with that letter, but also it's the most important thing for me in order to lead that efficient life and have it all, as the subtitle suggests. It's how ambitious women can have it all without doing it all. You have to know how money works. You have to know how you spend it. You have to know how to save it. You have to know how to leverage it in order to have all of those pieces completely lined up. And there's so much. I mean, I've been in the financial space. And I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but my very first job in life at age 16 was as a bank teller. So I've been around other people's money long before I had any of my own. And some of the things I learned very early on were just that most adults didn't know what they were doing with money, or they were afraid to talk about it. And so those types of things I talk a lot about in the book, and kind of how to have those baby steps to help you move forward.
Tell me about raising capital. In our world in commercial real estate, we're consistently raising capital. We're raising capital for our new fund, the Alliance Medical Property Fund, which is a smoking hot investment for our investors and investors out throughout the world. When you started 2 Cents Consulting or your clients are getting into business, what's your experience with raising capital? Did you have to raise capital when you started your company? And do you have a lot of clients where they're asking you for advice of what's the best way to raise capital, Melissa?
Yeah, there's so many angles to it, right? I did not have to raise capital. I have a service-based business. So fortunately, most of the capital's in my head. There's pros and cons to that too. It can be a lot harder to sell your business later on when you're a service-based business like this. However, I do talk a lot about raising capital with my small business owners. And there's so many opportunities. I was just talking to one this morning, and he and I were talking about he doesn't need any capital right now, but he's got a great loan opportunity and he's going to take it because it's a lot easier to get capital and get good deals on capital when you're not desperate for it. I really like opportunities when you can forward think a bit about it. When you're scrambling to make payroll and you don't have any cash, you're going to take any deal you can get. Versus if you take a deal, you get $300,000 loan to cover you, but you don't need it. It's okay. So you have some interest that you're going to pay on it, but sometimes that's the cost of doing business in order to be able to make risky decisions later and still have the cash to manage it.
So with $1.6 trillion of commercial real estate mortgages coming due shortly in the next 16 months, it's going to get ugly out there.
Mm-hmm.
And we're probably going to be in a recession. There's a lot of banks offloading commercial real estate loans. Take it from a guy who has a lot of commercial real estate loans with his company. In your experience, what are some essential financial goals that small businesses should prioritize, especially what's going on today with the economic climate? And how does that differ by industry, Melissa?
The most important thing I can tell every small business owner is understand your balance sheet. Like understand it, understand what it means, read it, have someone read it to you. The balance sheet is the most important report that a business has. Most people don't pay attention to it. They pay attention to the profit and loss statement. Sometimes they pay attention to the cash flow, depending upon how far down the path they are of maturity. But the balance sheet is going to be everything for you. You're going to have to understand how your assets and your liabilities are working together. You had a second part of the question that the answer fell right out of my head.
How does it differ by industry?
It differs quite a bit. We have a wide variety of industries that we work with. We have some law firms who are very service-based business. We have a lot of restaurants who have very heavy capital expenditures, like fixed assets, I should say, buildings and equipment, right? Kitchen equipment. We have a lot of Airbnb vacation rental properties. I have several clients that have several different mortgages that have to be paid at different times. And so understanding your specific industry is always going to be most important, but the advice I gave at the beginning of know your balance sheet is across all industries. Understand that the balance sheet, the profit and loss statement does not matter if your balance sheet is not reconciled and clean, as we like to say, because without a clean balance sheet, the rest of it can't be right.
In addition to someone's balance sheet, are there common financial mistakes or misconceptions that you've observed with your clients and small business owners, and how do you address them with your consulting work?
I'd say the biggest misconception that most small business owners that we work with have to start is the difference between cash and profit. Mm-hmm. Those are two very different things. Even if you are a cash-based business, understanding how the cash comes in and out of your account on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis is very critical. But also understanding that the profit is what you're going to pay tax on at the end of the year. It's the K-1 that your company is going to give you. Those things are very important. The balance sheet is going to reflect all of those items for you. You just have to understand how to read them and then how to analyze them. A lot of small business owners that I work with really struggle understanding how to pay themselves properly as well, how much they should put on a W-2 versus how much they should take in a draw if they're an S-Corp, or if they have a general manager running, how much should they anticipate taking monthly in draws. Those types of conversations can be very complicated, depending upon the industry in particular, but it's such a critical piece to making sure that you're really maximizing tax strategy and having the cash that you need so that when an opportunity to say buy commercial real estate pops up, you can take it, because you never know when those opportunities are going to come up. And that's what makes the wealthy wealthy.
And let me add to that, especially in our business, in all of our properties in our businesses, we have reserves. We continue to build up reserves, and reserves are extremely important in understanding not only your tax liability. I'm also a CPA, and we have outstanding CPAs in Chicago that we work with. But at the end of the day, Do you educate them and say, look, you're going to have to pay taxes, but also you need money in the bank for the what ifs? As a business owner for almost 3 decades, and we have multiple entities, there's so many things that happen that you can't predict. And having reserves are really important, because at the end of the day, in commercial real estate, for example, the ability to hold is the key to our industry. And it's really the same thing for any industry. Is, when you have maybe interest rates are rising, and your lines of credit, if you're a small business, or equipment financing, your debt service, your payments have gone up, and it might be beneficial if you have more money in the bank, you have a little bit more leverage to kind of create flexibility in what you're doing in business.
Yep.
And I assume you see a lot of that issue with your businesses.
Absolutely. It's one of the biggest question marks for most small business owners is, where am I going to get the cash from? And again, it varies. Are you just trying to cover payroll? Are you trying to buy inventory so that you can sell a product? Are you trying to make a mortgage payment on some property that you own? And some of those nuances are very specific to the industry, but the general premise of cash flow is important to all businesses. You just have to understand those different pieces. Some of the advice that I was given very young in life was, if you own a home and you can qualify for a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, take it, because you don't have to use it. You won't pay interest on it until you've started to pull from it. And then in those terrifying moments where you don't know how you're going to pay your mortgage or how you're going to make payroll, you can borrow from yourself. Your business then is paying interest back to you personally. And that was some very smart advice that I took when I was very young. It is a second mortgage on your home, but if you're not using it, it's just there as the reserve in case of emergency.
So, as you know, I've been in commercial real estate a long time, and I wanted to ask, do any of your clients focus on commercial real estate? And have you done much in commercial real estate in your career?
Well, it's interesting that you ask, Ben. My husband and I have been talking a lot about commercial real estate lately. And we're trying to figure out the next piece for us personally, right, in order to invest money. So we may need to have that conversation. But my clients are, none of them are in commercial real estate as a living, but many of them do own commercial real estate for the business that they may be in, except for, I have one very large vacation rental company who does purchase quite a bit of commercial real estate with the intent to convert it into a boutique hotel or split it off into different pieces. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that is happening, I think, in the marketplace right now.
So as I mentioned, we have a lot of women that work at Alliance, and in some very prominent roles. My future CEO is a lady, a Latina lady, who will be replacing me shortly. And Melissa, women often face challenges when it comes to balancing career and family. I see it live with my employees, and it's amazing how they do it. How can the strategies and insights from your book, Efficiency Bitch, help women achieve a better work-life balance while pursuing their goals? Because to me, there's really no such thing as balance. However, if you're doing something you love, you can create that balance naturally. So educate me on your strategies and insights.
So I agree. I don't totally love the word balance. In fact, the last letter of bitch, H, it stands for harmony. And it really is about debunking the idea that there is such a thing as work-life balance. But I do believe they can all work in harmony. And the definition of harmony is in agreement. And so there will be times in your life where you are far more focused on work or a company that you're building your career. And there will be times where you're leaning back into taking care of aging parents or children or any of those pieces. But my argument really lies in the fact that this has to stay true for both men and women. And it can't just be that women are predominantly managing the work of life, right? It has to be everybody. And both men and women have to be part of those conversations. And so in my household, my husband cooks completely. I have zero time in the kitchen ever. I don't even know where anything is. I don't like to cook. He loves it. And so it's been an interesting growing journey for the two of us together to recognize, some of that gender stuff we saw in our own households don't apply to us. I do think women can be their own worst enemies sometimes, feeling like we have to keep it all. I even made a comment this morning. We are leaving, the family of 5 is leaving tomorrow to get on an airplane to go see my sister, and the kids aren't packed yet. And I feel the urge to stop what I'm doing and go to pack them. And then I thought, you know what? Their dad's not working today. They're off school. They can figure it out. But I don't know if it's my grandmother talking to me or my mother talking to me or generation of women speaking to me through the media saying that mommy does that stuff. Mommy doesn't have to do that stuff, right? Somebody has to do it, but it doesn't have to be mommy. And so some of those things are difficult. We have to talk to the own voices in our head and say, hey, that's not your job. That just is a job that has to get done. Maybe you hire somebody to help you. Maybe you delegate it to your children or to your parents or to your neighbor. I mean, there's so many options. But I do think most of it starts with one, the voice in our own head, and two, with the partners that we choose to pair with. Because if we have a partner that is willing to go down those changes with us, then it will be very successful.
So in your opinion, going in 2023 and beyond, what are some great opportunities you see in the market for some of your clients, investment opportunities, businesses they could acquire or invest in? What do you foresee happening in the next 12 months?
Yeah, it's I'm very interested in the gig economy that has continued to change through the COVID cycle, right? 2020 changed everything. Everybody went online, and there's been a lot of businesses that have popped up through it. Feels like everybody's a coach of something and everybody's managing a team online. And I love the opportunities that exist there. But some things that I am noticing is that a lot of these businesses are starting to fizzle because they didn't set up processes properly to begin with. And so that thrill of starting a business or starting a coaching company, but not really understanding how to get a business running and stable off the ground is starting to be difficult for a lot of people. And so I do believe there will be a lot of opportunity to scoop up great ideas with great communities, whether it be online or in person, for very low cost, if any, because people just don't know how to value their own company or to package it in a way that would be more expensive. That said, there are a lot of people who are looking to sell their businesses right now. And that's another piece that I think people need to really pay attention to. If you're trying to get out of business for whatever reason, maybe you're part of the bucket that I just mentioned, or maybe it's time for retirement, or you are late to the great resignation. I don't know. Those different things are really available right now in a big way where you can start to look at how to package your business in order to sell it. I'll tell you two things that always happen. You don't have your financials in line. Huge valuation issue. If you don't have your financial reports completely tied out, it changes the valuation of your company completely. And processes that are in line, understanding how your procedures work. How does your customer acquisition work? What do you do when you have a customer? How do you offboard a customer? All of those pieces are really important. And again, depending upon the industry, like a restaurant doesn't think about how to offboard a customer, but maybe how to the checkout process would work and how to make sure they come back. So there's just a lot of things that can go into those conversations to help value the business and keep it very profitable and exciting to sell.
So before we wrap up, is there anything you want to share about Efficiency Bitch or 2 Cents Consulting with our audience? Anything
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, Efficiency Bitch is my persona. It's part of who I am. And it's a very important part of who I am. And what I've recognized over the years of being a business owner and doing all of the things. I mean, I used to be the PTO mom and the Girl Scout troop leader, and I realized some of that stuff didn't serve me. And now I don't work on things at all anymore that aren't going to make me feel better or make me smarter or make me more money. Those are kind of the three qualifiers. I'm on a board at 2 different not-for-profits. I guest lecture at local universities. I spend a lot of time volunteering back into the community. So it's not about money, but it is about, is it helping feed my soul or my brain or my pocketbook? Those 3 qualifiers are really important to me. And I'd say if you're listening to this, I hope that those pieces start to become part of like, does it serve me in one of those 3 areas? Then yes. If not, then maybe double think it.
So what's the best way to follow you and stay engaged? Is there a website? Is it obviously people can pick up the book?
Yeah.
How do you suggest people stay in touch with you?
Yeah. Efficiency Bitch is a podcast, an Audible, a paperback, a swag line. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff. You can go there. As far as 2 Cents Consulting goes, Instagram or Facebook are probably the best way to get me. TWOSENSE. And Efficiency Bitch is usually the easiest to remember. And you can, it crosses over. So you'll find me there too.
Sounds good. All right. Well, I've been waiting for you to come on. We're going to wrap up with our 3 questions. Are you ready?
Oh, I think so.
Okay. you are 42 years old now.
Yeah.
And I would say you would be in studio with me in Laguna Beach in our studio, and we have a couch. And I would say, Melissa, lay down, kick off your shoes, close your eyes. And I would say to you, go back to when you were 16 years old. Now, knowing what you know now, being this educated, sophisticated woman, that you can teach and coach and educate yourself at 16 years old, what would you share with yourself to help you to get to this point in life?
My answer may not be popular. I would have told myself not to drink any alcohol ever.
Okay.
I quit drinking alcohol almost 4 years ago, and it completely changed my life. I wish I had quit earlier.
Okay. Why is that? What was it about alcohol that you felt was tarnishing or impinging on your growth?
I think, it gets a little deep, but I do think I'm a worker bee. I like to work. I like to be busy. I've just always been built that way. And I think alcohol was the opportunity for me to have fun, for me to play and not feel so serious. And what it ended up doing was making me tired. I wasn't sleeping well. It was having a disconnected time with my friends and family, right? So I was with them, but I was also under the influence, or maybe I had friends over, my kids were there, but I wasn't really with them. And so those types of things just started really disconnecting for me. And when I tried dry January, that was my goal, dry January 2020. And I tried dry January and I felt amazing. And I thought, you know what? I can do it again. So I'm going to do February. And that was all I was going to do. And then once February was over and this crazy little thing called COVID was already starting to spin a little bit, I thought, well, let's just wait and see what happens. I was a global traveler at that time. I was working for Four Seasons. I was actually in Athens when the news started to break about Wuhan and all the things were happening. And I had 3 international trips in January, February, and March of 2020. And I just thought, okay, just hang on a second and let's see what happens. And then the world shut down. And so I just said, I'm not going to drink because this is going to make it a lot harder. And I just never went back. And it is the best decision I ever made. I've had maybe 3 times that I've been like, oh, I'll have a drink. And then I think, nah, I won't.
I stopped drinking over a year ago, and I still collect wine. I have a glass of wine here and there, but I agree with you. I can't be my authentic self when I drink. And I felt that what's the purpose? So, when I'm out to dinner, I have sparkling water. That's my gig. And put it in a wine glass with ice and a lime, and you have me at hello.
Yep. I'm a beer drinker myself, Ben. And so the non-alcoholic beer game has gotten incredible. Like there are so many cool ones now. Most restaurants have a pretty good variety. So I'll admit I get frustrated if I go to a restaurant and there is no NA beer because it has the similar like dopamine hit to it, right? Where you get it and you're like, that feels good, but you're not getting intoxicated anyway. So every beer is the first one, which is always the best one.
So it's our last day on earth, Melissa. It's just me and you. It's our last meal together. Your choice. What are we eating and what are we drinking? And by the way, you could throw that last answer out the door because it's our last day on earth. So go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm not a foodie. I know that sounds really crazy for somebody who said they wanted to own a restaurant or bar. That was what I went to school for.
Kind of contradicting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think I just always really liked the atmosphere of restaurants and wanted to be part of it. But when it comes to food, I don't get super excited. Like if there's a celebration, my husband's like, let's go to a cool dinner. And I'm like, okay, I guess I don't want to, but I do love family style restaurants. So one of my favorite things I've ever done is gone to India. I've been to India many times, but one of the things I love about India is the family style food. So we'll go to a restaurant, there's just a ton of different food and I can eat a little bit of everything. So whatever the food was, we would be eating, it would be definitely like a variety of options. And then as far as what it would be to drink, it'd be beer. Probably NA still because just because, but I do really love beer a lot.
Sounds good. So in our studio, Melissa, we have a black door. And if you're in studio with me, you will see a grand piano, a drum set, electric and acoustical guitars. If you can have anyone walk in that black door and walk through that black door, they could be living or deceased. To play us a song, your choice. Who's walking through that black door and what song are they playing us?
Oh man, that's such a hard question. So first thing that came to my mind was Carlos Santana, and he can play anything he wants. That's just like his guitar solos have always been really exciting for me. I've always really appreciated that. I'm going to go with that. I think that'll be my final answer. I'm going to go Carlos Santana and whatever the hell he feels like.
Okay, sounds good. Well, Melissa Leon, thank you so much for joining us today on the I Own It Show. If you are interested in listening to more episodes of the Ben Reinberg I Own It Show, kick that right-hand button and feel free to click subscribe. Additionally, click the like button as much as possible so we can let this great content and all the content we share with the universe, and as I say in the ether, let it go viral. To follow me, go to benreinberg.com. You can follow me on all the different social media platforms out there in the world, as well as if you're interested in following me and investing in commercial real estate, look no further. Go to alliancecgc.com. We are the leaders in investing in commercial real estate. If you are a passive, high net worth accredited investor, feel free to log on and click on our brand new fund, the Alliance Medical Property Fund. It is the hottest fund in the United States right now. We're currently taking commitments and we have limited spaces available. So if you're interested and you're looking to build a wealth and a legacy for you and your family, look no further. Go to alliancecgc.com. Melissa Leon, thank you so much for joining us. What a pleasure. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the I Own It podcast with Ben Reinberg. To hear our past episodes and connect with Ben, visit benreinberg.com.